Chapter 105. The Eastern Body. Take it out. Steeply a grim voice came out. Mr. Dongfang. Gu Hai's face sank. Bing Ji's face changed, but she saw that not far away, a white-robed Mr. Dongfang slowly appeared, still childlike, and landed not far from Gu Hai, grasping a jade ruin in his hand. Mr. Dongfang twisted his head to look in all directions. Ha 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 ha. Coming in. The depths of the great killing heaven dynasty. 5 million corpses of the divine blood army. And Mr. Dongfang steeped his eyes and looked towards where the corpse of the great killing sage was. The corpse of the great killing sage was sitting on top of the dragon chair. Next to it were 2 stools, one of which was empty. The one that originally held the blood prison sword had long since ceased to be at this moment. Another stool, but with silk cover, obviously is also a great treasure, all mine. As he spoke, Mr. Dongfang once again turned his head to look at Gu Hai and Bing Ji. Don't you want to take out the iceberg? Let me help you. Hey ha ha. Mr. Dongfang laughed coldly. As he spoke, Mr. Dongfang steeply swung the jade ruin in his hand. Boom. In an instant, it seemed as if a whirlwind formed and swept wildly towards Gu Hai. Go. Bing Ji's face changed, and she immediately struck out with a palm. With a palm strike, rolling snow and ice suddenly emerged from the void and went straight towards Mr. Dongfang. Little girl, you're not good enough to fight me. Turn. Mr. Dongfang snorted coldly for a lifetime. Boom. The whirlwind steeply rolled the ushered ice and snow. All of them rolled back, as if forming an ice and snow tornado storm, wrapping the 2 of them up in a twinkling of an eye. Under the heavy wind and snow, the corpses of the great killing generals around them, but they stood there fixedly motionless. Zhou Chasan. Gu Hai endured the frost all over his body and steeply chopped down with a blade. Purple light instantly filled the 4 directions, and the life execution blade chopped out as if it was a thunderstorm heading straight for Mr. Dongfang. Zhou Chasan. Humph. Mr. Dongfang let out a cold snort as he waved the jade ruyi in his hand. Boom. Gu Hai then felt that the surrounding heaven and earth steeply darkened, and it was as if he had arrived at a muddy pool. As the life execution blade chopped down, there was a drumming within the quagmire, followed by a rapid decomposition of the blade's power. Rumble. The power of the knife was gone, while Gu Hai was surrounded by darkness, plunged into the deep depths of a deep mud pool. Around his body released the astral shield. But it seemed that this mud could pass through the astral shield, directly sticking to the body. The mud pool glued and entangled, and instantly Gu Hai's body seemed like it was difficult to move. Emperor. This is the Shoushai's secret method. Bing Ji was also deep in the mud puddle, in anxiety. Boom. Gu Hai's body around him steeply emerged rolling fire, but the mud pool is weird. Even if the fire also burned not all the general, as if it was sealed by the mud in general, cannot distinguish between the southeast and the northwest. Gu Hai's face changed, bare. Steeply, in the center of the mud pool, a long sword emerged and blasted into Gu Hai's abdomen. Dang! The absolute life blade quickly boned out bones to block the long sword, but the long sword still pierced through the skin. Gu Hai was unable to move around his body. His face changed. Now he couldn't see anything. The body was still locked by the mud pool. How could this be counterattacked? Gu Hai and Bing Ji felt like they were trapped in the mud pool, but in fact, the duo was just hallucinating, because the 2 of them were still standing in their original position, twisting their bodies there, under Mr. Dongfang's hand holding the jade ruin and catalyzing it. The void around Gu Hai was layered, and it was obvious that this jade ruin had affected Gu Hai and Bing Ji's 5 senses. Can't move, that's good. Let me help you dig out the iceberg. Mr. Dongfang sneered, grasping the jade ruins with one hand and the long sword with the other. He steeply stabbed into Gu Hai's abdomen. There, the sword stabbed in and was about to stab Gu Hai's abdomen through and through, but at that moment, Gu Hai's body steeply boned countless times and blocked the long sword. "Oh, blocked it. Come again," Mr. Dongfang said in a cold voice. The jade ruin in his hand continued to create an illusion for Gu Hai. As Mr. Dongfang pulled out the long sword, Gu Hai's abdomen suddenly bled. A sword was pulled out, and once again, a sword stabbed at Gu Hai. Bear, ding. Inside Gu Hai's body, a piece of bone immediately emerged once again, blocking the long sword. HMPH. "I don't believe that you have that many bones, again," Mr. Dongfang said in a cold voice. Bear, ding 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 ding. Gu Hai felt that in the muddy pool, from time to time, there were long swords stabbing at him. However, they were not very powerful, merely the power of the Yuanying realm. Although it couldn't kill him, but it was unbearable to injure himself over and over again. At this moment, as he catalyzed his power, the iceberg released a cold aura once again, and immediately, Gu Hai's entire body was covered in frost, and he could barely move. It could be said that the snow added to the frost. "Bingji, are you all right?" Gu Hai said, anxiously. "I can't move, Emperor," Bingji shouted anxiously. "Humph, at this point in time, you still care about others. I'll unload your head first," Mr. Dongfang let out a sardonic roar. Boom, a sword blasted towards Gu Hai's neck. "Don't, bastard." Steeply, a woman's shriek came from behind Mr. Dongfang. "Bear Yin, what?" Mr. Dongfang's eyes widened. His sword hadn't even had time to stab Gu Hai's neck yet, but a long sword suddenly appeared on his chest. A mantis catching a cicada, and a yellow sparrow in the back. "No, no, no." Mr. Dongfang looked at the long sword on his chest, revealing a wave of incredulity. "Bear Yin." The longsword steeply shot out sword chair, and instantly, it chopped Mr. Dongfang in half vertically. Boom. Mr. Dongfang abruptly turned into two halves of a corpse and flew out. Blood exploded in all directions. "Brother-in-law," the woman's voice exclaimed in shock. However, just now, Long Wenyu and Yi Divine Needle broke into it, just in time to see Mr. Dongfang dealing with Gu Hai. And Yi Divine Needle instantly struck, stabbing Mr. Dongfang with a sword and splitting Mr. Dongfang alive. The inside can't see the outside, but the outside world can afford to see the inside. Mo Yaika, Bat Ancestor, King Shikong and the others all stared with wide eyes. "Mr. Dongfang, this is dead," the crowd was surprised. As soon as Mr. Dongfang died, the Jade Ruyi fell to the ground abruptly. Splat! The Jade Ruin fell to the ground, and Gu Hai and Bingji were jolted, but they walked out of the illusion. At this moment, Gu Hai's body was covered in blood. The longsword stabbed out by Mr. Dongfang, although it didn't penetrate into the body. But the surface of the body was pierced, and a large amount of blood spilled out. Gu Hai quickly repaired his injuries. At this moment, he was covered in frost and blood, weakly looking at Mr. Dongfang's corpse in the distance. Illusion. Gu Hai's face sank. "Is it that jade ruin that stirred up our five senses?" Bingji's face changed. "Brother-in-law, how are you?" Long Wenyu, however, was about to pounce over with a worried face. After all, Gu Hai's current appearance was too tragic, with more and more frost around his body, and he was still covered in blood. Gu Hai was indeed weak, not by Mr. Dongfang's injury, but in the kidney orifices, the iceberg was releasing more and more cold, gradually. It was a little too much to bear. "Sheriff, Mr. Dongfang is dead. That's good," Yi Divine Needle but steeply laughed. Long Wenyu was about to pounce on Gu Hai. Demon Ghost Spirit, but steeply changed her face furiously. "Wait, wait, don't." Boom. Steeply, a slap came out of thin air and blasted towards Long Wenyu. "Asshole." Gu Hai's eyes steeped in anger, shrieking as he slashed out once again. Gu Hai simply couldn't exert any more power at this moment, but seeing Long Wenyu being hit by that slap, naturally, he couldn't care about anything else. "Zhou Chesan," boom, purple light erupted and crashed into that void slap. Yi Divine Needle's face also changed wildly as he roared, "How dare you!" Yi Divine Needle's sword also quickly stabbed at that slap. Boom, boom. Zhou Qiasan and Yi Divine Needle's swords crashed into that slap with a loud bang. There was a huge concussion, forming a violent air current that shot in all directions. Theft. Gu Hai was a mouthful of blood sprayed out by his own ice mountain backlash, and a thick layer of ice formed on his hands. Boom. The palm finally exploded, but the closest Long Wenyu was subjected to the aftermath and was instantly blown away. "Wenyu," Gu Hai exclaimed. Bing Ji, however, held the flying out Long Wenyu in her arms. "Brother-in-law, ooh, brother-in-law," Long Wenyu rose up crying. Under the aftermath, Long Wenyu clothes were immediately blown tattered, cape hair, face, hands broke a lot of wounds. Blood suddenly overflowed, full of face, hands full of blood, looks miserable, incomparable. Concussion aftermath, but also shocked the Long Wenyu internal picture shock. A mouthful of blood sprayed out. The appearance is extremely miserable. Fortunately, there is no big problem, just external skin injuries. Internal injuries are not heavy. Bing Ji quickly checked and reached Gu Hai's side. "Brother-in-law, ooh, I thought I could save you," Long Wenyu cried. Tears and blood stained her face, looking exceptionally pitiful. Cough, cough. Gu Hai coughed up to mouthfuls of blood and laughed. "You did save me just now. Brother-in-law, how did you get hurt like this? Brother-in-law, are you all right?" "Ooh, you must not be okay." Long Wenyu supported Gu Hai, not caring about her injuries at all, but looking at Gu Hai with a scared face. Yi Divine Needle had just pierced the void palm that suddenly emerged with a sword, and instantly flew to Long Wenyu's side, looking at the four directions warily. Other than Mr. Dongfang, who had been decapitated by himself, there was someone else. Huyu. Slowly, a white-robed figure once again stepped out from a short distance away. Yet another white-robed childlike figure. "Mr. Dongfang," Yi Divine Needle abruptly exclaimed. "The Nine of the East, also killed by you guys. Hey, ha. The white-robed child let out a cold laugh. What? The faces of the crowd changed. Just now. That one that was split in half by the Yi Divine Needle was the Nine of the East. However, they saw Mr. Dongfang in front of them steeply wave his sleeve. Huyu. From within his sleeve, 5 white dots steeply emerged. The white dots flew out, steeply grew in size, and slowly, once again turned into 5 white-robed children. 5 again. 10 of the East, pay homage to the main body. Eastern number 6, pay homage to the main body. Eastern Noah 5, pay homage to the main body. East Noah 4, greetings. Oriental No 3, pay homage to the main body. The 5 Orientals bowed respectfully. The hearts of Gu Hai, Bing Ji, and Yi Divine Needle, however, sank to the bottom. More importantly, the 5 Mr. Dongfangs, each of them were grasping a jade ruin. Eunuch Yi, heal with quickness, quick, cough. Gu Hai coughed up blood and anxiously said. Huyu, Yi Divine Needle steeply rushed up,